Hi, got a pudding pizza here. Let's go down to earth. Okay, what is a soul and a
Anyone with a
spirit?
healthy mind that wants to do some inquiry, he can go back 5,000 years into the past and look at the ancient text. And you'll see that the soul is nothing but air in our lungs. And that's what the Egyptians believe. It's right there. I mean, the original texts are right there. Everything else is bullshit. And if you don't, accept what everybody tells you, don't believe it, just look for yourself, you'll see it.
And that's the reason in the Roman Empire, Roman epigraphy, you see many of the gods that live in the spirit world, and they are all personified. Everything's personified. But you see that they cover themselves, they always have the spirit world.
Anything that floated in the air, tassels, ribbons, birds, wings, they were considered sacred. That's the reason all the gods are represented with these ribbons above their heads. That's what the veil comes from, that all the religious leaders have. So tassels and ribbons represent the spirit world.
Sacred. Well, it's nothing but air. So, sorry to tell people that are religious, there's no such a thing as a soul, which is the air in our lungs. The repository of the soul is nothing but our.
So the idea of believing in God and soul and after death is a psychosis, it's a delirium. Today, we're in the 21st century, we know that the air in our lungs that keeps us alive is oxygen. In ancient times, they didn't. One of the main things that represented was a messenger of the gods was eagles and birds. And of course, if you want to fly to God, what do? You put a wing on anything. Even in a penis, you put a wing. So that's what your winged creatures and cupids and angels and all that comes from. They don't exist. It represents the air. Here's a horse with wings, and the swastika below represents the sun. They knew that the two main organs to keep us alive, or that give life, was the milk of the semen, which is a penis, that was considered a god, that was equivalent to the rays of the sun, and also the lady's breast milk. I've said that ad nauseam in many of my videos. But they put wings because on a penis. And you can see a lot of this in Roman mythology. And this was actually a sacred object. And it was nothing pornographic. Christianity invented pedophilia, pornography, and everything else. And in ancient times, it was very healthy and represented the air and the creation. Here's a winged penis Christ, ready, looking up to God, and here a winged Victoria. Also, we breathe. We get the soul, we get the spirit. But what happened when we died? And, people in ancient times, in ancient Egypt, you die and you have this contortion, you suffer, and you exhale, and then you die. And of course, people say, well, the soul left the body. And in many cases, they tried to, in Roman ceremonials, when the person died, the eldest son would actually go to his father, and being a priest, and also trying to grab his last breath to absorb the soul. And also, in ceremonies, they have ribbons, and they have a lot of ribbons. So everything that is dangling, that is the ribbons like that, it represents the air. Because look, I'm picking up air here. In ancient times, they thought, the spirit. You're picking up the spirits. But having all these religious ceremonies today, like the Catholic Church does, and and they come around with this dumb, retarded beliefs, and accepting soul and spirit today, in the 21st century, no. This is what happens when atheism is practiced. In other words, science. A person he needs to have a repository of the soul, which is the lungs. He needs a new one. Thanks to science, this
Currently, no effective treatments or cure for pulmonary fibrosis in the lungs are in experimental phases. The treatments intended to suppress inflammation have only...
If the ancient know about pulmonary fibrosis, not a chance. But thanks to atheism, science, we know what it is. And we can give a person a new repository.
I have to give him something to talk about lung transplantation.
Since the medical intervention within the clinic is available for IPF patients who have reached a terminal stage.
So Christians that believe in God and believe all this stuff is real and angels and everything else, why don't you just forget about science? You believe in resurrected zombies, you can just sit down, get on your knees and pray if you suffer from a terminal illness. And why to seek for a transplant? You know, thanks to the retardation of religious beliefs and nonsense like that, but we didn't do these transplants 1,000 years ago. Thanks to the stagnation of this retarded folks that believe in God.
That's out.
It's the old one. That's a container of the spirit world.
For these now, then we're broadening the exposure, and the team is growing in size, so this will be a sustainable
It's good to be an atheist.
The lowest incidence of airway complications in the world. Nice, fluffy, white, much larger capacity. Gives you an idea how badly
there is the container of the spirit.
We are downsizing
Research on refugee injury. Tissue inflammation triggered by deprivation and restoration of blood flow.
Even getting access to do something as large as a double lung transplant. In the lung and elaborate chemicals and mediators that cause the damage.
No science. Atheism.
Interrupt that process before the white cells are even recruited out into the tissue. Hormones and things, white cell subpopulations that govern the process. But that's sort of after the injury is already started to manifest. We're now
like believing nonsense of God can understand this.
Very refined level. Now we've asked the anesthesiologist to reinflate.
Do that.
You're going to be very gentle the way you inflate this.
That's what contains your spirit, your soul,
so applying just
your lungs.
You can see it start to recruit.
In ancient times they didn't know this. Today, the 20% we know. The soul doesn't exist. It's nothing but air in your lungs.
In the chest. Or lobes, so we make sure that it too is inflated. If you're relaxed and focused, that's when you're going to bring your best game.
We have people like this wasting a brain, getting stuck with retardation of religious psychosis.
And I go to church every single Sunday. It's funny how God just directs your path and divine meeting with you, and now I get to be on TV.
Look at it. The closer you get, what camera is that? Okay, zoom way on in.
Full of the spirit world.
Just right on in, go.
And though the technology of science, atheism is there for everybody to enjoy and prolong their life. They are Christ-psychotic people. They abuse their children by preventing them from being cured with medicines. And they rather pray. And the government does nothing about it. Don't put these people in mental institutions.
Of life and death that no parent ever wants to face. Here's CNN senior
parents are Christ-psychotic?
Elizabeth Cohen.
Hauser's parents, the cancer spreading through his body would not be treated with chemotherapy or radiation.
Why?
Recommended by this organization called the Nemenha Band, a self-described Native American group advocating what they call natural healing.
Natural healing with prayer, retards.
We're not out to harm anybody. We never.
No.
This is just our way of life.
Natural diet, sweat lodges, and other alternative remedies.
Like prayer, crap.
And then when children misbehave, they're possessed by demons, is like Andrea Yates did, and decided to drown them. 5 of them. So they're right now in heaven. And she's not in jail. This is what happened in a Christ-psychotic infected country. The reason face psychosis exists today is because for centuries people are being exposed
the result
to
of
this.
sin and the rejection of God and His truth.
But don't statements like that.
All from Roman mythology.
The other
everything.
To understand the schizotypal disorder that afflict these people, making them believe 5,000-year mythologies to be reality, one must go back into the past and read the mythologies and understand their ancient text. Believing God is a malfunction of the brain not needed in this 21st century. Back to the oral.